12 o'clock on your Monday afternoon now. Welcome in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford will be along with me in just a moment, inching ever so close to football finally getting here. We are 12 days from South Carolina and Old Dominion, week number 1 at Williams-Brice Stadium, but just 5 days away from week 0. This Saturday, college football returns to your television screens. And we'll be there every Saturday through the rest of the year in some form or fashion. And now, when you talk about the new playoff format, we're going to be watching college football all the way into mid-January now. So buckle up. It's about to be the best time of the year with football, just in general, as far as the eye can see. Obviously, I have NFL that's going to get started up just a couple days after college football gets rolling with week number 1. And then it's going to be wall-to-wall football again. When you count the NFL through February, crowning the Super Bowl champion as well. And as we continue to make this slow crawl to the start of the season, we are still sitting here with a lot of questions about what South Carolina is going to be, about what certain position groups look like. And Beamer, in talking to the media on Saturday after scrimmage number 2, made a note that it looked, for the most part, pretty similar to what we saw in scrimmage number 1. There wasn't anything that was a wow, huge, amazing difference that surprised anybody or anything along those lines. It was, some things got better, improved in a few areas, but overall kind of in the same realm. The defense has had the offense, the whole 9 yards there, as you would kind of expect. And that's okay. That is what you typically deal with in the offseason, through a spring, even through a fall camp, especially when you're breaking in things like a new quarterback, obviously redoing most of the rooms that you have on offense. That's expected the defense would have a little bit of an advantage at this point in the process. But that's something that you hope isn't one of those things where the offense is just not good and that's what makes the defense look so good. Or you hope it's just the defense is that good, and that's what's maybe helping or making the offense come along a little bit slowly. And again, from everything that we see, with the talent they brought in the transfer portal, with the amount of experience you have on this defense, it should be better. It should be hopefully significantly better than it was a season ago. And again, you don't have to go out there and be a top 3 defense in every category in the SEC. It'd be great if you were. I don't think anybody here would complain about that by any means. That would certainly mean you're having a pretty great season if that's the case. But as I've said, if you can just get yourself in the top half, which again now is 8 because you have a 16-team league, if you can get yourself in the top half of the SEC in most important categories, you should be okay for the most part. And again, Carolina's struggled in a lot of those major categories: rushing defense, pass defense, overall defense, scoring defense, and to the tune of being at the lower end or last in the SEC, depending on what category you're looking at. So just taking those steps forward is going to be very, very important. And again, when you read the reports coming away from scrimmage number 2, you certainly like what you hear in regards to the defense. A lot of rotations going in there, the hockey shifts they talk about doing on the defensive fronts, where it seems like they have about 15 or 16 guys as of right now that they're comfortable with being a part of those ones on defense, including some guys on the back end in the secondary rotating through that other cornerback spot as they're trying to nail down exactly who's that's going to be between Judge Collier of Kari Swain and Emory Floyd, which that battle, much like the quarterback battle, seems like it's kind of coming down to the last minute. Just wanted to make 100% sure you have the right option before putting out the depth chart, which I believe should be coming out next Monday. It'll be game week, as typically the case. We can finally not put to bed the debates we've been having about that the offseason, but at least gives us a clear view of what direction they're going and what it's going to be for at least the start. And that's the thing about depth charts, is they can change as the season goes along. So what you see in week number 1 against Old Dominion may be subject to change for week number 2 if certain guys don't perform to certain standards and all that kind of stuff against a team like Old Dominion that, again, not disrespecting the Monarchs, but a team that on paper you should be able to go out there and win fairly handily to the point where you're able to get a lot of bodies on the field and get a good look at a lot of different guys. And that's the objective for the most part about these type of games, is giving yourself the opportunity to get a lot of guys on the field, to give your starters rest as soon as possible, again, assuming that you're up by a lot. And again, figure out the answers to the questions that you may still have going into game number one, because for as many questions as we have, doing this from the just outside the gate perspective of South Carolina football, I imagine there's still tons and tons of questions internally as well. That's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you can have so many good options at a spot that you don't know who to choose from, and you have to let it play out on the field and kind of go from there. So again, that's a good problem to have, and we'll see how South Carolina evaluates all that as they get set for game number one. Let's jump into some of what Coach Beamer had to say on Saturday coming away from scrimmage number one. Big question, kind of right off the jump, is anything huge change between scrimmage one and scrimmage two?
Not really. Like I said, I was pleased with the way we kicked the ball for the most part. I know I said last week that Kai was putting the crap out of the ball, and he continues to. And then Alex is doing a nice job, or did a nice job. And then William Joyce, I believe, got in there and kicked some. Mason Love got in there and kicked some. So I feel like we've gotten better there. And we really wanted to come in today, Alan, and be able to throw and catch a little bit. Coming into today, if you say, okay, we kind of know who our top couple running backs are, let's get these other guys some carries and see what they can do. And then we said, let's really kind of figure out what our receivers can do. So let's throw and catch the ball a little bit more than maybe we did last week. And thought some receivers flashed today and did some good things. And overall, and I told the team this last night, we got better as a team this week. There's no question in my mind from last Saturday when I talked to you guys after this preseason game to today. We really got better in practice this week and feel like everybody made strides and still have a long ways to go, don't get me wrong, but like the progress that we made this week.
Still nervous about kicker, not going to lie. Did say it sounded a little bit better. Herrera, Joyce, Mason Love now getting involved in that, which I said last week. I think if Mason Love starts getting seriously involved in the kicking game, that means that you're not super confident in what you have in options one and option two. But still a couple days to figure that out. We didn't get statistics necessarily on who was making what and who was missing what. I will say that sounded a lot more optimistic and hopeful than the last time we talked about kickers last week, where he was very blunt and honest that it was not up to the standard that they were expecting. So hopefully that is something that is moving in the right direction as we get into the start of the season. And that's an area that you don't think about it being a problem until it is a problem. Because, and especially at South Carolina, where you just become so used to having good kickers over the past decade or so, decade plus really, that it's almost kind of a given. Field goal kicking is not going to be a problem, but now again, you're getting to this point right before the season where you don't exactly know who that guy's going to be, and your options right now are a 6-year senior, a junior, and somebody that is coming in as a true freshman. And again, none of those guys have kicked any kind of significant field goals at the college level, save for, I think Herrera has 4 extra points made in his career. Now, I'm saying all this, and Herrera could win the job, go out there, nail every field goal, and win all the awards at the end of the season. That'd be great. But until we see it, until we hear the confidence from the coaching staff in it, I don't think we're going to feel comfortable with it because, again, you had a sure thing in Mitch Jeter the past couple of years, and now you go into this season, at least 12 days out, still not knowing who your main kicker is going to be, and that really could come back to bite you in what we could think could be some tight games this year.
Yeah, I mean, we started this conversation, you and I, months ago, saying, we know there's been a really great tradition of kickers here.
Right.
But you can't automatically think that just because you've had a great tradition of kickers that every kicker is going to be a great kicker.
Right.
And you've got a lot of unproven kickers this year. Yeah, Herrera almost won the gig a couple years ago. Mitch Jeter ended up beating him out. But that was a few years ago. And now really, look, you read between the lines. Jeter leaves to go to Notre Dame for whatever reason. Maybe NIL, he loved touchdown Jesus. He always wanted to go freeze his tail off in South Bend, Indiana. Maybe it's on the bucket list. Who knows why?
Sure.
South Carolina didn't go in the transfer portal because Alex Herrera's been around for many years.
He played with George Rogers.
Yes, he did. He kicked that year.
Yeah.
So they looked at it like, we've got our guy. We don't have to go get in the portal to get a kicker because we got our guy.
Right.
The expectation was, this is easy. Alex Herrera will step up. Well, the kicking got better Saturday, but you didn't hear Shane Beamer go, Alex Herrera is now our guy.
Yeah, he was more optimistic about it, but he wasn't gushing about it.
Yeah. And, it's really interesting because if you notice, just the psyche of coaches is always compelling to me. Shane was very open about the kicking.
Right.
He goes, let's talk about your kicking. Punters are great. How about the kicking? Punters are great.
Right.
And he talked about the lack of consistency in the kicking game when it comes to place kicking, extra points, field goals. But with the quarterback, everybody's having good days. Everybody's making some good plays. Boy, we got a competition. We got it going on. It's interesting how he has handled that compared to how he's handled the kicking. And the kicking he's been pretty upfront about the kicking has been inconsistent. So here's a guy that's typically, I shouldn't say him, all coaches typically this time of year are sunshine and unicorns and lollipops about everything. And I remember last year, the running back room was killing it.
Sure. Sure it was.
And, we feel really good about this offensive line and all these things. And we saw what happened. So, coaches in general always are looking optimistic, glass half full, blah, 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 especially this time of year because everybody's undefeated, right?
Right.
So when you hear the coach go, this kicking game, it's been inconsistent. What does that tell you just to hear any head coach, forget Shane, who's a very optimistic, positive guy to begin with, but any head coach this time of year looking at the media, especially when the media is not really seeing a whole lot,
sure,
and say this kicking game?
Yeah, he doesn't have to say that.
No, he can just say, we're going along really nice with the kicking game. We got good competition, and we're going to see how it all plays out. No, he said kicking game's inconsistent.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to what are press conferences used for a lot of the time? Sending a message to your players. And you're saying, hey, coach did not sound pleased when talking about the kicking in his presser. You guys need to get it in gear and get it better. Which, again, they're going out there trying their best.
Sure.
They're not trying to miss field goals by any means, but having a little extra fire lit under you maybe helps you out a little bit.
So think about this. And this, again, I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing. Okay, let's focus on Shane. Shane's always very positive.
Sure.
Everybody's making plays. He's feeling good about a lot of things. How far does it go in his head watching inconsistent kicking where he says this to himself, I'm going to have to say that now at a presser?
It's probably not the first day.
Yeah, I'm sure that what he has seen during the kicking portion of camp has finally led him to say that in front of the media.
Yes.
Like you said, I'm now going to send the message clearly to the kickers. It's inconsistent. It's got to get better.
Because that, we're about 2 weeks into camp at that point in time. So you'd had 10, 12-ish practices of data to look at and, evaluate, and was not pleased with what he had so far.
Yeah. We don't want what Matt Berry calls the college
kicker situation.
Exactly. We don't want it.
That's the highlight you don't want to be on.
Never. So we got that. Also, the quarterback. Look, we're going to get into this here in a second. There's been a lot of conversation about Shane Beamer's comments about the quarterback.
There's a third quarterback in the option now.
Yes. We're going to get into that next. I think, ready, all is well. We'll get into that next. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We're rolling till 3 here on the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. You're getting close. You smell it, Tyler?
Yeah, the last weekend or I guess this weekend's the last weekend to, do things away from televisions or football stadiums.
Because here's the thing. I mean, if you look, we're all going to watch in some way, shape, or form pieces of Georgia Tech, Florida State.
Sure.
Some folks will watch the whole game. Some people have it on as background.
Sure.
And if it gets close, they'll start paying attention. Some folks will say, I'll watch the first quarter just because I'm geeking for a little bit of football.
Right.
Some people might pop in, hey, this game's closer than I thought. I'm going to go watch the fourth quarter.
Right.
But it is not a compelling matchup to make you go, I need to be in front of a television or a laptop or a device or a bar to watch this game.
See, I feel like a couple years ago, this was 2019 when Florida and Miami played a week 0 game. That felt like a big deal. Like it was like a 7:00 game on ESPN. Like it really felt like a proper build-up event type of game for week number 0, which again, we don't get every single year. Last year we had Notre Dame and Navy and Ireland, and that was a blowout.
Awful.
So yeah, you don't always get super compelling matchups, but at least it's two Power 4 teams, playing a conference game against each other. So it's not like Florida State's going to go blow out UL Monroe or something like that.
Yeah, I'll say this though. I feel like Florida State's lost a lot to the NFL draft.
Yes.
They lost a lot in general. Lost your starting quarterback. Lost your big play running back. Lost both your receivers. Lost your edge pass rusher. I mean, you lost a ton. And not to be mean, I'm just not a DJU guy. I think Uyunglele kind of is who he is. He's not super accurate. He threw the ball better down the field last year. At Clemson, he just couldn't throw the ball anywhere. He was consistent, though. Couldn't throw it short, intermediate, or deep, right?
Right.
At Oregon State last year, he was a little bit better than he was at Clemson, throwing the ball down the field. But overall, his numbers aren't anything that makes you go, oh, my God. It's just not.
Yeah.
That's okay. But he's not the guy he's replacing.
Sure.
The guy he's replacing, Jordan Travis, much better.
Yeah, I think this can be one of those games where even if Florida State wins it, if it's an ugly game, low-scoring game, like you might come away from that saying, I don't know if Florida State's the 10th best team in the country. I don't know if they're on path for going to the college football playoff type thing. Like, I think we can learn a lot about Florida State in this game.
I think, and I do believe also Georgia Tech can hang around. Look, Haynes King, once he got away from College Station,
He was one of the better transfer quarterbacks last year.
He was really nice last year for Georgia Tech. They played well at times in 2023.
I mean, they took Georgia down to the wire in rivalry week last year.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech is better than you think because we haven't thought they've been any good for a long time. And I don't know if Florida State is as good as people think. So this game might be closer than like the line. Taking Georgia Tech and the points might be the way to go if I was a wagering man, which I'm not because I'm broke.
Right.
But so this game might end up being something you go, oh, wow, this thing's close in the fourth quarter. I might actually have to put some eyeballs on it.
Sure.
But no one's going tingly over this matchup just for one reason anyone cares.
Right.
Because it's week 0 and it's prime time.
Right.
And it's in Dublin.
Yes.
Because who doesn't want to watch a game in Dublin?
Which I guess would be a night game there.
Now, again, if I was in Dublin,
sure, fun.
This would be...
would you make it to the stadium?
I would not get there. I'd be in a pub somewhere face down. There's no way I would actually make it to the game.
I got to get to the game. The game ended 3 hours ago.
Sorry, dude, they're all packed up. They're on the plane. All right, so South Carolina, I want to get to this really quick. Shane Beamer, first of all, was talking about his quarterback competition after the second scrimmage on Saturday. Pop that on, Tyler, real quick for us there, my man.
No, I meant what I said a minute ago when I said I feel like we have we got multiple quarterbacks that I feel like we can win games with, and I mean that. I mean, when you talk about Davis and Robbie, you're talking about two guys that have started games in, I guess, with Texas or with Oklahoma now being the SEC, they've started SEC games. It was a Big 12 game at the time, but they've started SEC games, so they have that experience. And no, I do, because I feel confident in all those guys, and we'll sit back and kind of look at everything. And that's not to say that Lenoris hasn't continued to improve. He has. I mean, Lenoris has had a great preseason. I feel like Robbie and Davis, continue to get better, without a doubt, at the quarterback position, and all those guys would like to have plays filled that they could have back over the last 14 practices that we've had. So certainly like the group, and we are all about competition and love to compete. And those guys have done a great job of competing and pushing each other, and they will continue to, no matter who goes out there for the first play against Old Dominion in 2 weeks. Okay, I know.
Here's the thing. Shane is doing what a lot of coaches do. This is not just Shane Beamer being coy. Coaches, especially in this situation, look, if Spencer Rattler's back, we're not having this conversation, right?
Sure.
So if you're Shane Beamer, you're taking advantage of the opportunity of, we don't want Old Dominion to know who the starting quarterback is until the last possible minute to let Old Dominion know, right?
Sure.
I mean, this is really coaching 101.
Yeah, totally.
2 is, remember, they preach competition. You heard it in the cut.
Of course.
Shane preaches competition. He does. But then there's 3, which I don't think it is. What if all of a sudden we had a competition? I mean, look, I think there's a 1% chance of that.
Sure.
But we're not there. I don't know. I really don't. So is there a small sliver that there might be something more to this than just Shane keeping Old Dominion in the dark and preaching competition and wanting everybody to work hard right to the end? Could there actually be a competition? I mean, you can't say 100% sure, no way, because we're not there.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this.
Sure.
What if there is?
I presented this question to Jack earlier. I said, what if it is Robbie Ashford? What if he is the starting quarterback for game number 1? How would people feel about that? Because I feel like the conversation would not be, hey, wow, Robbie Ashford, all right, let's ride this guy and let's go win a bunch of games and all this kind of stuff. It'd be, well, what happened to Sellers? What's wrong with him? Why isn't he good
What
enough?
did he not do?
Because the blueprint for the next couple of years is Lenore Sellers. Mm-hmm. And again, every indication this offseason is he's been leading the way. Mm-hmm. And if it suddenly went the other direction, it'd be like, well, what happened now?
Well, think about this for a minute. You purposely didn't take certain quarterbacks in the portal because you believed in Lenore Sellers.
Yes.
If you didn't believe in Lenore Sellers, KJ Jefferson would probably be here.
Maybe. Malik Murphy from Texas.
You had guys who wanted some kind of, and I'm not saying those two, but Shane Beamer did say there were quarterbacks that they talked to that wanted guarantees that they would start.
Sure.
And Shane wouldn't do it because of Lenore Sellers. So what if you go through all that dance and all of a sudden Robbie Ashford goes trotting out there against Old Dominion? And then it would come down to the next thing, though. How does he play?
Yes.
Now, if Robbie Ashford went out there and tore it up, you go, oh, he must have beat out Lenore Sellers because look how good he was.
Sure.
If Robbie Ashford goes out there and he's bad, then you're going to say, wow, how bad was Lenore Sellers?
Yeah.
I still think, look, I'm going 99.7% that Lenore Sellers is your starting quarterback.
Maybe it's Davis Bevel.
He had a couple good. That's why I just think this is Shane doing what coaches do.
Yeah.
That's all. Well, I just think it's.
And like you said, a year ago there was no debate. Spencer Rattler was going to be the starting quarterback. No question about it. Didn't even have to talk about it because it was just a given. Mm-hmm. You're talking about now an 18, 19-year-old kid, Lenore Sellers, that has never started before. You want him to be on top of his game at all times. So, and he may be well aware that this is all a formality, but just that little bit of doubt in the back of his mind to push himself harder each and every day, just in case Robbie Ashford can come and steal his job, is probably why this is being done.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I think it is. Absolutely. Hey, Friday at Charwood, it's our Summer Golf Classic. 803-755-2000. Give Rock and the folks at Charwood a call. Get your foursome in. This is when it really, we still have spots left, but you got to get in because this baby always sells out this week. The weather's supposed to be phenomenal at Charwood. 82 degrees, like a 10% chance of rain or 5% chance or whatever. We have this cool thing called a golf gun that you can shoot as your tee shot.
Nice.
This could be fun. And other cool stuff, too. So, again, 803-755-2000, Summer Golf Classic this Friday at Charwood. We'll get back in here, continue our conversation about what happened in the second spring, and how'd that Rocket Sanders fella do? Let's get into that next on the halftime show in the game. know what you're talking about, what we're talking about, what everybody's talking about. It's that second scrimmage on Saturday. As South Carolina gets ready for Old Dominion on the 31st. Of course, we'll get everything cooking with Gamecocks game day. Tyler Head and myself hanging out at the old party lot. Sound and Images.
11 a.m. airtime, I'm thinking correctly.
Mm-hmm. Because if it's a kick's 4.
That's right. 5 hours
we
before.
We start at 11.
So it means we'll go stuff our face at like 1 then, right?
Food's so good. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. So we will have to be at the party lot at Sound and Images. 4-hour, 2-hour Gamecocks game day pregame show, which leads into the network. 3-hour pregame, which leads you to kickoff at 4 o'clock.
It's going to be hot.
Yes.
So we got 12 days. Go ahead and start putting your sunscreen on now.
Mm-hmm.
Drink like a gallon of water every single day to hydrate. Because I'm just going to guess it's going to be about 95 degrees and very humid by that day.
What would make you think that?
August in Columbia. It's the hottest place on earth.
We'll both look like Elijah.
So we need to get our guy Adam. I'm sure he knows somebody with an industrial-sized fan.
We just see with the big gigantic fan that you see at, like, for example, I'm sure that ESPN's game day has a big gigantic fan that they carry everywhere. It's as big. It would be as big as our truck.
Yes.
The fan.
Ideally.
Yes.
Yes. So,
I think Jay has one he carries around with him all the time.
Well, he has to because he sweats as soon as it gets above 32 degrees.
It's funny. He says he's got a sweaty Jay story for me for over the weekend.
I can't wait.
I know. So that is Saturday the 31st, 11 a.m. Gamecocks game day from the party lot at Sound and Images right across from Williams-Brice. Another thing that Shane had a ton of things to talk about. Rocket Sanders obviously is quite vital to this offense. We talk about the keys to this offense, the offensive line, Lenore Sellers. But Rocket Sanders is vital because if healthy and the offensive line is solid, we know what Rocket Sanders can do.
Right.
But the important thing in that whole little list was Rocket Sanders healthy.
Mm-hmm.
We hear he's good to go, 115%. He's rocking and rolling. He's ready to kick it into gear. I think he'll be on a pitch count against Old Dominion because, again, no offense, it's Old Dominion.
Well, ideally, if you're beating them well enough, you shouldn't have to ask more than, a handful of carries out of them.
Look, if for some reason that game's closer than anybody would think it would be, it's not the end of the world. It's just, it's your first game out of the chute. You have no preseason games. You got a lot of moving parts on the offensive side of the ball.
If you won 31-20, it's not the most comfortable, but it's not time to hit the panic button.
Exactly. But if you do get ahead in this game like we hope they will, and then if Sanders gets 10 carries, 12 carries, something like that, it's a good first game, first day back, since you haven't really played much. You went through a ton of injuries last year. That's a good day's work.
Sure.
So here's Shane Beamer talking about Rocket Sanders and his contribution here recently in practice.
Great. We like I said last week, we held him, and again going into last Saturday, he had practiced and had been fine. And in the preseason game last week, we did some 7-on-7 before the scrimmage started, and he participated in that. We just didn't put him in the actual play-in part of it. Today we did. We wanted him to get tackled. That happened some in practice this week where we tackled in practice, and he got tackled a couple times, and then it happened today. I thought he looked great. He's a pro. Ran the ball hard. People don't talk enough about him in pass protection. He's really good in pass protection, and that's so critical, obviously, at the running back position. He runs good routes in the passing game. He can catch. He's just a really good overall running back. We got him some carries in there today, and I thought he showed that he's Rocket Sanders.
There you go. That's really all you look. Forget, stats in a scrimmage or whatever. The fact you got Rocket Sanders on the field, he's healthy. He got hit a little bit just because you got to. We'll get hit a little bit.
Yep.
Break the scab off, so to speak. Tear off the Band-Aid.
Sure.
And what you care about, really, and we say this all the time, is Rocket Sanders is ready for the full workload in Lexington, Kentucky.
Yes.
So that's what you're looking for. So far, it sounds good regarding Rocket Sanders. All right, to the offensive line, Tyler Head. Let's get to cut 7 because, again, I think that is the key to everything for this football team. We saw how, and look, I'm not trying to be mean. It wasn't just this, but the number one reason this thing went off the rails last year was your offensive line got blown up on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and started in game number 1.
Yeah.
Set the tone for the entire year.
It did. It was very difficult to run any type of offense. You know, Dow Loggins said at Birdies with Beamer, and we asked him, like, Dow, seriously, just between us, no one's listening. Did you get to use your whole playbook last year? No.
Well,
not at all.
You can give me Peyton Manning, Barry Sanders,
Randy Moss, Jerry Rice,
Michael Irvin, all the all-time greats, and you give me a shoddy offensive line in front of them. I don't know how great that offense is going to be.
Don't matter. Your offensive line's got to be able to hold their own. And last year they couldn't, and that just that put so much pressure on the rest of this football team. It's got to get right this year. So here's Shane talking about the offensive line depth, and he has his solid number that he has right now in his mind on the O-line.
An improved offensive line that's a year older with the guys that played last year minus Nick Gargiulo. Everybody's back. True freshmen that played last season in Tro and Tree who are a year older and better. The return of a true freshman that probably would have been a starter for us last year if he hadn't gotten hurt, and Marquis Anderson. And the arrival of, some pretty talented freshmen led by Josiah Thompson as well. And then the arrival of Torricelli Simpkins and Kamar Bell on the offensive line. Really like, I would say we have a solid 8 right now. I wish we had more. A solid 8 that we feel comfortable winning SEC football games with. We need more, but I like that 8, so that makes me feel better. Their improvement. I like what our tight end group is doing. That certainly helps in the run game. And then certainly when you have a quarterback that can make plays, with his feet. Was the replay of one of our games. I was watching one of our games from last year in my office yesterday, just looking back at some things from that game, and there were some plays, and I love Spencer to death, but there were some plays where Spencer scrambled and got tackled, and I'm watching it thinking to myself, well, Norris and Robbie probably are going to make that guy miss this year as well. So just that element when things do break down, at least in the passing game, and that quarterback, has to scramble and hopefully it doesn't break down. We got a guy that can make some plays with his feet as well. So that gives me more confidence for sure.
We're going to come back and get into this about the offensive line. He says he's got 8 solid.
Yep.
Let's try to guess Let's guess who we think would be the 5 starters in the 8 solid.
All right.
What the heck? Also, we'll get the Firehouse sub text the hour as well. 803-404. What am I saying? Good jeez. What am I saying here?
You were on
803-404-6100.
You had it.
Wow, I'm losing my mind. I go see Dr. Dan.
If somebody wanted to sign up for our golf event, they would call Charwood at 803-755-2000.
You had to go put another phone number in my head.
So
why'd you do that?
Because
Why have you done that?
Because I'm good at remembering phone numbers.
All I remember is I go to my phone, I go, hey, Tyler Head, I'll hit this. Hey, it's Colin Tyler. Nice. I couldn't tell you.
If I gave you 5 guesses, do you know your girlfriend's phone number?
That
Off
I
the
do
top
know.
of your head? You do know that one?
Know.
Okay.
I got that one.
That's an important one to know.
I know your first 3 is 404.
No.
See, I got nothing on yours.
470. A lesser used Atlanta area code.
Oh. See, yours is just under Tyler Head in my phone.
And that's okay. Yours is just under Terry Ford.
You couldn't tell you. Could you tell me my area code?
I could not. Is it 8 something? No.
Oh, we suck.
If I saw a call from your number and your name didn't pop up, I would think it would be a scam.
You would not answer
right? I'd
it,
be
man.
like,
No way.
That's a scam.
There's no way. But you know your wife's number?
Yeah. It may take me a couple tries.
My girlfriend's number's been burned in my head for over 20 years now.
Okay,
That's the reason I got it.
Well, there you go.
So, but yeah, terrible with it. So 803-404-6100 Firehouse sub text the hours come next. We're going to try to guess the offensive line in the solid 8 that Shane Beamer is talking about on the O-line. That's next. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We're going till 3 here on the game. No, it just hit me. I remember my phone number of the house I grew up in.
Okay.
That I can remember.
I still remember mine too. My parents had a landline until, 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I had one that came extra through Xfinity, because I had Xfinity,
Okay.
and you got a phone, part of your cable package.
Sure. Which they had to give away. Like,
Right,
here,
exactly.
take this. I don't want that. You're going to have it.
You have no choice. You want the cable, the Wi-Fi, you want everything else, the internet.
Right.
So we never used it, and every now and then it would ring. It would scare the hell out of you.
It's like the scary movie when the stranger calls from inside the house.
Nobody wanted to answer the phone. We're just staring at it. Yeah, I want to pick that up. Do you want to pick that up? I don't want to pick that up.
Right.
Anyway, I do remember my phone number when I was 13. I remember no phone numbers now, but I remember my phone number when I was 13. All right, Firehouse sub text the hour. Let's get that. Then we'll try to see if we can figure out who the starters on this offensive line will be and who the 8 are that Shane Beamer's talking about that he's confident in, that are solid at this point. All right, let's start off with the old text of the hour.
Nameless texter weighs in and says, sorry, just tuning in. What's going on? Why is there a quarterback controversy? I've seen Robbie Ashford play. No way he's a legit starting quarterback in the SEC. There's not a controversy. It's just this charade. I don't know. And for motivational purposes, for Lenore Sellers, it's a competition up until we get the depth chart on Monday, pretty much. But again, I don't think any of us believe that Robbie Ashford's going to upend Sellers in this competition. It's just about keeping your young quarterback on his toes until the very end.
And I think keeping Old Dominion in the dark. You're playing the coaching game that coaches like to play.
Which, like, even for them, they probably know. You know what I mean?
But you know how this goes. The opposing coach is going to prepare for both quarterbacks, because if you don't, let's say for some reason Robbie Ashford does try it on the field, then everybody's going to look at you and go,
First series, let's put them both out there. One lines up at wide receiver, the other one lines up at quarterback. Let's just confuse them.
Or you really have fun, line them both at wide receiver and have Rocket Sanders take the snap as the quarterback.
There you go.
Why not? If we're going to get goofy, let's get goofy. No, I mean, so there really is no quarterback controversy. We're just saying, what if, for some reason, that 1% chance that there was a quarterback battle, then what? But no, I mean, I would be very surprised if Lenore Sellers doesn't go out there with the ones.
Right.
I just think he's the starting quarterback. That's all. But Robbie Ashford's name comes up over and over again by Shane Beamer. The other thing is, and it's true, the texter said you've watched Robbie Ashford play. We've seen Robbie Ashford start games. He's a guy that's very athletic. He can make plays with his legs. When it comes to dropping back and throwing the football, there are huge issues.
Sure.
There just are.
Sure.
The spring game, look, you can't take everything from a spring game. But just watching Lenore Sellers in the spring game and watching Robbie Ashford in the spring game, it was obvious who the better quarterback is.
Yes.
The more natural, more instinctive quarterback. And unless something is going on in the summer that has changed everything and flipped this thing upside down, which I don't think there has, Lenore Sellers will be your starting quarterback.
Right.
So text or breathe. It's going to be okay.
We're okay.
Everything's all right. We're good. But we appreciate the text, like always, our Firehouse subtext the hour. Okay. Here's what I think. Hearing other people who know more than me talk, and even kind of listening to Shane Beamer say things, I think your starting 5 right now in pencil is Rashawn Lee at center. You got Simpkins and Bell at guard, the 2 transfers.
Yep.
Josiah Thompson right now is your starting left tackle. And if Casey Henry can stay in one piece, I think he's still leading at right tackle.
Sounds like what they at least rolled out this past weekend with the ones. That seems to be the consensus of what the starting 5 is. Now, Beamer did mention a moment ago, they have about 8 guys they're pretty comfortable with saying they're in that group that separated itself.
So let's try. He brought up Marquis Anderson. I think Marquis Anderson's in that group of 8.
Yep.
I also believe, but here's where it gets interesting. Then you have Tree. You have Baugh.
Yep.
You have Moore. And you have Parks. Now, there's only room for 2 more.
Yes.
So out of those 4, what 2 go into the solid 8?
I would probably go with Tree and Ja'Kai Moore. Personally.
I think Ja'Kai Moore's in there.
We hear a lot about Moore's versatility, similar to Rashawn Lee, where you can move him around to different places. I think that's very important. And then Tree, again, He was on your starting offensive line. Trey and Trey were both on your offensive line as starters at points last year. And again, Josiah Thompson is a freak, so it's not surprising that he may get the nod at left tackle, but those guys certainly in the mix to be in the starting 5 as well.
I think that Moore, because he's been there 10 years, 15.
Yeah.
I think Moore is one. I mean, they talk about his leadership ability, and you're right. He's versatile. You can move him around. I mean, don't get me wrong. Moore struggled last year.
Yeah.
Just like the rest of them.
Yeah.
And the last one, I'm probably going to lean to Tree because, again, Case and Henry, they love him. He just can't stay healthy.
Right.
Josiah Thompson, they love him. He's a freshman. We even saw Caden Proctor last year, a 5-star freshman at Alabama, have his struggles early on in the season.
Sure.
I'm going to put Tree at 8. Ahead of Ball and ahead of Parks, just for that reason. Because tackle, if everything goes right, tackle could be really good.
Right.
But if you've got some freshman struggles or you got some injury stuff, Tree might be getting himself some snaps. So I'll go with those 8.
Sounds good.
All righty, we'll come back in here. Football in the 1 o'clock hour on the halftime show, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We've already been doing football in the noon hour.
Well, we're getting to that time of year where I think most hours are going to be football, and more football.
I do not disagree.
So if you like football, come to the right place.
Hey, today, 3 to 6, Jay and Elijah are both back. Elijah, he's got some tan.
Yeah,
going.
Looked a little darker.
It was funny. He told me, do you use the sunscreen that you spray on, or do you use the rub on stuff?
I prefer the spray. The
So
rub,
do I.
it's messy, and I just prefer the spray.
Same here. Easier, cleaner, quicker.
Sure.
But you got to spray it right,
You do.
or you get the tan that Elijah has right now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he's got the S-tan, the snake tan.
Yeah.
Where, he's like dark over here, but then he's white here, and it
Right.
looks like it's,
Well, the problem with the spray stuff is you do have to rub it in. They say you're supposed to spray yourself before you leave, like when you're inside, when the wind's not blowing and all that kind of stuff. What do? We all wait until we get to the beach or
sure
the
we
pool
do.
or whatever. All right, spray me real quick, and it's going everywhere. And then, you got a towel on your shoulder that rubs all of it off, and you sit down, rub some of it off on your legs or whatever, and then you just have like these patches all over you of some areas
look
that are
like you
more
got some
burnt
kind
than
of
others.
skin disease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot. I was like, because Elijah showed me, I'm like, you look like that guy that we all make fun of who falls asleep on the beach in the fetal
He's got
position.
his hands
Got his
on
hand
his chest.
on his chest, and he's got his leg up over around it. Yeah, I go, you look like that guy. But so Elijah's back. Sweaty Jay's back from moving a daughter. I forget. I lose track. He gave me an Excel spreadsheet of this, and I've totally forgotten which one was which this weekend. But he was moving one of his daughters into school. So Jay and Elijah back at Columbia Craft today from 3 to 6.
Yes.
Green Street in the Vista. They'll be talking about, obviously, Columbia Craft sponsored our big poll that we did about the greatest Gamecock moment since 2000. It was a landslide
Big landslide.
to the 2010 College World Series champion Gamecocks. And plus, Elijah has, fallen on that sword to test every beer at Columbia Craft. So,
Well, somebody has to.
I mean, the man he sacrifices for the good of the cause.
He absolutely does.
So they'll
Thanks
be
for
out
your
there 3 to
service.
6 on today, matter of fact. And then it's CHW Cabinetry on Wednesday, 3 to 6. And we are also at Firehouse when you and Wes and Chris and
Right down the street.
the whole crew takes over the Firehouse on Main Street.
Yes. And then on Friday,
The big one.
all of us.
Every one of us out at Charwood. We'll be doing our shows from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Charwood, hanging out there, rolling early game and extra point.
I was going to say, you
Gamecock
think
Central.
Jay's sweaty moving? Wait until we do a show Friday at Charwood.
Well, guess who's not going to be here Friday?
Jay.
He's moving another daughter into school. So we'll
By
be.
the way, they're all at different schools.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. You got them at Maryland and at Georgia and in Asheville, and they're all over the place. So we will be out at Charwood on Friday for our Summer Golf Classic. There's still room for a few more foursomes. This is when it gets crazy this week. The weather's going to be great. We start to fill up and we sell out.
Yes.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. We got this golf gun. You can use that instead of teeing off.
Now, I want to shoot that thing.
So do I. I don't want to play. I just want to shoot the golf gun. Man, that'd have been great in my neighborhood growing up. God, that would have been awesome.
How much trouble could you have gotten in with a golf gun in your neighborhood?
I think about the things I would have done with that golf gun. The night before Halloween in Baltimore is called Moving Night. In Detroit, it's called Hell Night. There's different places in the country.
A mischief night. of
Yes,
sorts.
it's a night of juvenile delinquency.
Yes.
I could have a lot of fun with
Toilet paper, eggs,
golf
guns.
golf guns. I mean, the golf gun could have been quite the weapon the night before Halloween. And we'll leave it at that. All right, so that's going to be fun, though. The golf gun, we'll have that. We're going to be you can use that instead of a driver. It'll be a good time. Well, it's just going to be like always a blast. Firehouse Sub will be giving us the lunch. We'll have breakfast. All sorts of cool stuff going on. And you can still get in. We still have room for some more foursomes. 803-755-2000. Call Rock and the crew at Charwood in West Columbia. All right, so the wide receiver position. is also important on this football team. A lot of question marks on offense. We say it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Now, last Saturday after the scrimmage, Shane was asked about the receivers. You remember the answer?
A lot of drops.
Is what it is. Start off with is what it is.
Wasn't the most, reassuring answer.
Right. Talked about some drops. Some plays have to be made by the receivers. Talked about the size of the receivers. Really wasn't spending a lot of time talking about receivers who were doing a lot of good things.
Right.
So Shane, after scrimmage number 2, is asked about the wide receivers. And let's get cut 9 about what happened with the receivers and drops in the scrimmage.
We had fewer. Did we have some? Yes. When you have 100-plus plays, you're going to have some drops. And we did. Some of those that there isn't an excuse for because they should have been caught. But at the same time, we've worked really hard at that. We've spent more time this week on just, not elementary like catching drills and catching the ball, but just more time in walkthroughs, just working on a catch circuit where everybody on the offense just going around and just catching more passes in practice and in walkthroughs. And it's paid off as well. Thought they did some good things, and all of them, I think, flashed at times, and all of them certainly had some moments they would like to have back, but pleased with it. And now we really got to get, and it'll be better for them too, Jordan, as we've thrown the whole offense at them, the last offense and defense, the last 2 weeks of practice. I mean, everything that we do, we've thrown at them. So now we start to get into game planning and having a smaller game plan of plays and things that they have to know each week will to continue to eliminate the clutter in their head and allow them to play faster.
And get that, I know you have to have that, talking about guns, you got that wide receiver, that football gun. Everybody's go out there and just catch footballs.
Right.
While you're sitting in class, shoot footballs at you. You're sitting in the student center, shoot some footballs at you. Because look, Ken, this is not Mensa stuff.
Nope.
The two most important things for any wide receiver: A, get open; B, when they throw it to you, catch it. If you can't do those two things, your speed doesn't matter, your vertical doesn't matter, your shuttle time doesn't matter. None of those things matter if A, you can't get open, and B, when they throw it to you, you can't catch it.
Right.
Quite vital, especially that B part, because the rest of it doesn't matter. If they throw it to you, you can't catch it. And yeah, I know Shane said, look, there's a lot of plays. You're going to have a drop. I mean, it happens. But it needs to happen less frequently. It just does. And you're going to have them. I mean, even the greatest receivers in the history of the game of football have dropped a pass. But your drop percentage and drop rate cannot be high. And 2, and we see this a lot. If you have a wide receiver group who has drop issues, they're going to drop it on 3rd and 7, right?
Of course.
Or they're going to drop it when you throw a pass in a very small window inside the 15, right?
Sure.
Or you're in the end zone and you're down by 6, right?
Sure.
It's never a drop that doesn't matter.
Nope. Well, gosh, how many times that bite the Chiefs last year?
Until the playoffs, and they caught everything.
Right.
Which, again, made no sense. Oh, they're the Chiefs. So the point is, catch passes. It's like anything. It's like you got to keep practicing. Best way to learn how to catch a football is catch a football.
That's right.
If you can dodge a wrench,
dodge a ball.
That's right. So, but you got to figure out who your guys are going to be at this point. And really, we don't know. I'll be honest with you. We look at, like, for an example, we've heard a lot about Jacobs, the transfer from Florida State. We've heard a lot about Bennett, the freshman. Obviously, you got transfer guys like Lorverdane and Brown who have come in.
Yep.
You're hoping, and again, Nick Harbor can progress and start to be able to make plays for you. Before camp, we heard a bit about Stevenson, who got a little bit of playing time last year and then disappeared. So right now, you really don't know. You really don't know. We kind of guessed the 5 starters on the offensive line and then the other 3 that made the 8 solid. If I said to you right now, give me the 6 at wide receiver. You want to go with this, what it is?
I'll give you my best shot. I'll go Jared Brown,
I agree.
Gage Larvadain.
I agree.
Nick Harbor.
I agree.
Um,
I'm going to go Bennett and Jacobs,
okay.
and I don't know the sixth one. How about Campbell?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Why not?
But again, are we saying that with confidence? No.
Do any of those? Did any of those come confidently off the tongue?
I mean, Jared Brown's the one we probably heard the most about consistently. Like, I was talking about this with Chris earlier. Like, we heard a lot about Larvadain back in the spring, and it seemed like, hey, he's kind of the leader out. And what have we heard about him in camp and scrimmage? And maybe it's just he was so far ahead, you don't have to report on what he's doing or talk about him as much.
He's on the side because he's in.
Yeah, where he's good. We don't have to worry about him as much anymore. Maybe it's that, or maybe he's just come back down to earth. Or everybody else caught up to him. That's the infuriating thing about not having access to these things. And again, when they go out there and view practice, they're watching guys field punts and do kickoffs, which that's important, certainly. But the meat and potatoes of what we're trying to figure out is offensive skill positions. And you can only gauge so much from what you're being told secondhand by people that, again, are at practice, but maybe they don't get to see everything. You know what I mean? Like, if this coach is watching this, he's maybe not paying attention to this thing over here. So it's all very incomplete.
And you're not seeing it with your own eyes.
Exactly.
You just aren't. And, here's the other part about it is when you think about these wide receivers, okay, who have they made access to when it comes to speaking to the media?
They've made a few. Brown.
Jacobs.
We've heard from a couple of them.
But my point is, those must be guys who are heavily in the mix, or you wouldn't put them out in front of the media.
I would assume so. Yeah.
That's my assumption. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So let's say
we heard from. Do we hear from Delvon Campbell? I think
Campbell did. Yeah. Jacobs, Brown, not Harbor.
I don't know. We have not heard from Harbor.
Have.
Not in like the press conference.
Right. So I mean that means when they put him out in the presser. I'm trying to think of any that those. How about Stevenson?
Not to my recollection.
So we know from the top of our head that Brown, Campbell, and Jacobs have talked in the summer camp.
Right.
Because Larvadain talked during the spring. Mm-hmm. This is what you do when you try to figure out something. You start going down this road. This is how desperate I am to try to figure this out. Who talked to the media? But usually you don't put guys out in front of the media if there's not a reason.
Sure.
You're not taking your, fourth string long snapper and saying, hey, what the hell's your name again?
Right.
I'm going to go talk to the media. So I feel like that tells you that if they're talking to the media, there's something there.
Tyshawn Russell spoke last week.
Okay, so Tyshawn Russell did speak last week. So Russell spoke.
Yep. Jacobs, Campbell, Larvadain, that was 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Brown has spoke.
Brown spoke. But yeah, that's all we've gotten so far.
And Jacobs. I think Jacobs spoke. So so that's pretty much, how many is that? I lost track. That's a more than 6. We spend so much time looking at some of this other stuff.
Sure.
This wide receiver thing, are there guys separating it all in the depth chart?
I think the hopeful thought is you've got so many guys that are capable that you're it's hard to figure out who it is, as opposed to, we're trying to piece together 5 or 6 guys to be able to get out there. You know what I mean? You hope it's the former, not the latter.
You hope everybody's so good.
We can't separate these guys from each other.
Right. But that's what we're hoping.
We'll see.
All right, we'll get back into football in the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. How these freshmen doing?
Sure.
Let's find out about the freshmen. Shane Beamer talking to the media Saturday after the scrimmage. We will hear from Shane some more right here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Oh, halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Football, and more football here on the halftime show. By the way, really quick, and my ADD is kicked in, or my ADHD, or whatever it's called now. My
one of those things.
Daughter, who's going to be a junior at Colorado, gave me an entire long spiel about the correct terms of all that now.
The correct terms of what?
There's really no ADD anymore. There's two different levels of ADHD, and one of those levels of ADHD is really ADD. So really, we don't talk about ADD anymore. It's two levels of ADHD. You got that?
Sure.
Yeah, I just went along with it.
Don't test me on that.
I honestly became teacher of Peanuts after about 5. I love her to death. I was just like, you know what I mean, Dad? Sure.
Is that within her field of study?
It was the other day.
Oh,
she watches these YouTube things. And
where we all become experts.
Yes. Just like, yeah, you ready? Just YouTube it.
Yeah.
You know what? I need open heart surgery. Just YouTube it.
I think we can all say we probably learned more from YouTube videos than we did in a lot of college classes.
Absolutely. No doubt. Between YouTube and Wikipedia, I can do anything. I can do anything.
Look, I get it. It's editable, but it's not all false.
No. It's true.
It's a good starting point.
Yes. Hey, the reason I started this was I've had no sleep. The reason I started this, our boy Stallions is coaching at Mumford High School.
That's right.
And I heard this flipping around the satellite radio at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was driving. In the movie Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie Murphy he was from Detroit in the movie Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
He's a Detroit cop in Beverly Hills. He's wearing a Mumford High School t-shirt.
Really?
How random is that?
Wow.
I think Adam Rittenauer from who covers the Big Ten came up with that poll.
How about that? That's good.
That is an all-time Hall of Fame poll.
Pretty elite.
It's pretty good. Anyway. Don't it just hit me in the head. I wanted to tell you that because we were talking about Stallions on Friday. I wanted to give you that one because I thought you'd be impressed by that poll.
Yeah, that was good. That's good.
That's Major League poll right there. All right, so Shane Beamer, after the second scrimmage, talking about, a ton of stuff. Shane answered a lot of questions, really good with the media after the second scrimmage. Shane talked about the freshmen. Now, freshmen are going to play on this football team. We've been talking about this the entire offseason. Here's Shane, Cut 13, Tyler, talking about the freshman standouts so far in summer camp.
Oh, man, it's a good question. I did. So we're allowed to take – we got 119 players on our team right now. We're allowed to take 74 to SEC away games. So I did last week kind of a preliminary, if we played Kentucky today and we can take 74 players, who would be on the trip. And there's there would be freshmen literally at every position, other than probably defensive tackle right now, that would be going on the trip as true freshmen. So we're trying to get them all ready to play. And I like the freshman class. It's a talented group, and there's going to be a lot of those guys out there in game one for sure. You guys will have to wait for the depth chart that y'all wait all year for its like release hot off the press to kind of see. I know it is. I put a lot of time into it. And when does that go out? Is that this week or is that
next Monday?
Next Monday. Wow. All right. But I mean that. No, seriously. Like every position. I think I know you'll see guys in the secondary. You will at linebacker. You will at defensive end. Obviously, you will at offensive line. You will at running back. You will receiver. You will in tight end. You will. That there'll be freshmen there playing, and who knows, there may be more positions as well. But that's kind of where we are right now.
Well, if you needed any confirmation, Dylan Stewart will not be redshirting this year.
No, I told you. And Josiah Thompson will be getting on the field. That lets you know. Everything you need to know right there.
Pretty much.
And Michael Smith will play at tight end. And you're going to see Amazio Bennett at wide receiver.
Yep.
And did he say linebacker too?
Yes. So
our boy Johnson will be on the
probably
field.
J.R. Johnson.
Mm-hmm. There's talk that Gregory might redshirt.
Yeah.
The way the numbers are because of depth at linebacker,
sure. and
which is fine.
And the good thing now is you have the 4-game rule, and you play a good mix in those first 4 games of 2 easier opponents and 2 harder opponents. So if at the end of those 4 games, you should probably have a good idea of who your guys are going to be, who you're going to need. Yep. And let's say you've only played a Wendell Gregory in 2 of those games, the games against Old Dominion Akron. All right, we're going to redshirt him. Maybe he'll see the field against Wofford later on in the year, but we want to preserve that eligibility because he, wasn't in our rotation against LSU and Kentucky. So again, gives you opportunity to figure out what you want to figure out, preserve some guys' eligibility, and go from there.
Oh, now, Steve Fink, our buddy Steve Fink, you heard there on that cut.
Yep.
The guru of media over across the street. When did Shane do this presser?
After the scrimmage on Saturday.
And Steve just said, the upcoming Monday, the depth chart's coming out.
As in today or the next Monday?
He said upcoming Monday.
Right.
The upcoming Monday be today.
I guess so.
So maybe the depth chart's coming out today at some point.
Keep a watch on it.
I was going to say, refresh your computer real quick, my man.
I'm doing that. I was under the impression that it was not going in until next Monday.
I mean, maybe I misheard. Hit it again real quick.
One more time.
Let's hit it again and you can pick up that thought.
Oh, man, it's a good question. I did. So we're allowed to take – we got 119 players on our team right now, and we're allowed to take 74 to SEC away games. So I did last week kind of a preliminary, if we played Kentucky today and we can take 74 players, who would be on the trip. And there would be freshmen literally at every position, other than probably defensive tackle right now, that would be going on the trip as true freshmen. So we're trying to get them all ready to play. And I like the freshman class. It's a talented group, and there's going to be a lot of those guys out there in game 1 for sure. You guys will have to wait for the depth chart that y'all wait all year for its like release hot off the press to kind of see. I know it is. I put a lot of time into it. And when does that go out? Is that this week or is that
next Monday?
Next Monday. Wow. All right.
No, he said next Monday.
Next Monday. So
is that a week from today?
I'm assuming that's a week from today.
Because he would probably say this Monday if it was today.
I think you meant next Monday.
Because really, this is the next Monday.
Which, if I remember correctly, I think we got it the Monday before North Carolina last year.
Well, it makes sense.
So,
that's why I was a little surprised when I heard that. But in his mind, next Monday is not today.
Right.
would be my thought.
Which, by the way, this is their mock game week, which also means his availability is going to be just like game week. So we'll hear from him tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Also, coming up on Thursday, Turn to Carolina calls as well. Yep. Got a couple more chances to hear from Beamer in the lead up. Same thing next week as well, in the lead up to next Saturday's game.
I was just about the depth chart. You know how you have all the oars all over the depth chart?
Uh-huh.
What if quarterback had an oar?
Oh, my goodness. The frenzy.
There would be a frenzy.
What? Or you know what? He could just list everybody's football players.
Yeah. Or everything, except obviously interior defensive line, where or every position.
Yeah.
And just watch everybody go.
He just nuts. He just releases the roster. No depth chart, just the roster. These are the 119 guys on the team.
And that's how we're rolling. Everybody's integral to the success. All right, Charwood, our Summer Golf Classic is this Friday. Please give those folks a ring. Say hi to Rock. Get your foursome in, 803-755-2000. You can register. Again, we'll be giving away Gamecock season football tickets. Also, we'll have a cool golf gun. You can use that instead of a driver, which will be fun. Also, Firehouse Sub will supply the lunch. We'll have breakfast there as well. It's just going to be a good time like always. So at Charwood, the Summer Golf Classic, this Friday, again, 803-755-2000. Call to register your foursome. We will come back, continue to hear from the football coach, Shane Beamer, talking about the differences in the offense in Scrimmage 2 compared to Scrimmage 1. That's next on the halftime show. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors in the game. One rule of radio. Well, two rules. Well, there's a lot of rules of radio we can't talk about on the radio because it would get us all in lots of trouble.
That is true.
I'll give two real quick ones. A, don't leave your food in the refrigerator overnight.
Never.
Because it will be eaten. And two, never leave any of your computer equipment in the studio.
Not recommended.
Because there's a good chance it'll be on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or somewhere where we can make money off of it.
That's right.
Radio people are degenerates.
Got to make our money some way.
That's right. Anyway, somebody left something in here and we're laughing hysterically about it right now. So
And I'm pretty sure it was brand new
oh, it looks brand new.
because I had not seen him bring this in previously.
It is a brand new fancy mouse that goes to one of these fancy apples.
Yes, and when it has a little Apple logo on it, we know it's not cheap.
Yep. So that means we can get a lot of dough for this on the open market. Is that what you're telling me?
Probably.
You know, and look, we'll split it.
Yeah. Totally.
Absolutely. Okay. Like, I've had no sleep. I'm just since I've had no sleep, I pretty much nothing's off limits criminally right now because I'm in a zone.
Well, we talked about the golf gun. It's
I'm
like,
in a zone.
It's like going back to your days in youth in Baltimore, right?
I'm starting to feel like I'm 17 years old running around Essex again.
There you go.
Anyway, all right. So Shane Beamer talking to the media. Look, the defense was ahead of the offense in the first scrimmage. And that's natural, not stunned. I mean, the defense is coming back in much better shape than the offense. There's only one question mark on the defense. The defense is much more deeper. Again, we think they found something in November. We hope they found something in November of last year. So with an offense with a ton of question marks everywhere, it makes perfect sense the defense ahead of the offense in scrimmage number one.
Sure.
So here's Shane Beamer. Shane asked about, well, what was the difference in the offense since last week?
Not really. I think maybe just more familiarity. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there were things last week that we needed to be better at. There were things this week that we needed to be better at. Probably just an overall understanding of everything. I mean, when we came back, we kind of threw everything at them last week, and it wasn't like we added a lot of new stuff this week. We did situational stuff. Sunday we went out and we did backed up. So you're the offense and the ball's on the 2-yard line and you've got to get it out. And you're on the road and the crowd's going crazy. We did that scenario. And then between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we worked overtime. We worked into the game where we have the lead offensively and you're trying to run the clock out. We call it 4-minute. Defense is trying to get the ball back. We worked a lot of 2 minutes. So we worked a lot of situational things this week in practice. So we weren't adding a lot of new things. So from last week to this week, there should be a better understanding of what we're doing schematically because there wasn't a lot of new stuff. So if anything, I would just say that.
So, I mean, maybe some of this is from last week. You threw a lot of stuff at your guys. They're trying to, digest all of this. And so maybe this week just those things were getting smoother. You heard Shane talk about the drops at wide receiver, which you have to put a stop to that as much as you can. But, we didn't hear like last week, there was a lot of self-inflicted wounds offensively, whether it was a hands-to-the-face penalty to stop the drive or wide receiver was wide open down the field, dropped what would have been a touchdown pass. Self-inflicted wounds were stopping drives. Now, we didn't hear about that in Shane's riff on Saturday like we did the week before.
Sure.
But we did just hear, well, maybe things are getting a little bit smoother in the understanding the offense category.
Well, and that's what's important to remember. Not only breaking in a new quarterback, trying to figure out the wide receiver room, running back after Rocket Sanders, you mixing and matching on the offensive line a little bit. Like there's a lot of moving pieces. And, we talk about this mainly with the guys up front, but offense as a whole, you get a flow when you're kind of used to being around everybody, when you kind of understand who's going to be where. And if you're pulling guys in and out, moving guys around, that kind of messes with the cohesion a little bit. So maybe it's a situation of them just still trying to gel a little bit together as an entire offensive unit that maybe is the reason for them being a little bit slow.
Yeah, could be. And just, what you have to do is maybe part of your self-inflicted wounds or guys are thinking too much.
Sure.
Think less, meet, play.
Yes.
We saw that 2 years ago with the offense. Once the offense was less complex, and not to say guys weren't smart enough, it was too much stuff you had to think about, and you couldn't play free.
Right.
And maybe they're learning a lot of stuff, and so maybe that affected last scrimmage where you couldn't play free. You weren't playing as fast, and Shane brought up, that way you can play faster because you have less to think about.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. As we talk about the freshmen, this just hit me. I'll throw this question at you.
Okay.
At the end of the year, if you and I bet, $1.40, because that's how much money we have combined, is Josiah Thompson the freshman that plays the most?
Oh, and we're talking total snap counts?
Total snap count.
I think it's probably a good shot at that because even if Stewart is as big of a factor as we think he is, the amount of rotating they're supposed to be doing up front, I think would probably pale in comparison to what we assume could potentially be your starting left tackle. So I think that's probably a safe bet.
It feels like it from everything we're hearing. And again, you're right. And Stewart probably in the beginning is going to be used on obvious passing downs where they look at him and they go, just go hurt the quarterback, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think, Thompson obviously would be getting most of the reps if he starts at left tackle. And it feels like he will. But the difference between this year and last year is if Josiah Thompson starts at left tackle is because he won the job.
Yes. Yeah,
last year,
absolutely.
You had to look at Sidney Fugar and Tree and those guys and can you go play tackle? We really don't want you to, but we have no choice.
Sure.
But again, it doesn't mean Josiah Thompson's not going to have some growing pains because we talk about Proctor. Caden Proctor last year was a fancy five-star offensive lineman, left tackle, who started at Bama, and the first half of the year really struggled. Now, the second half of the year, he got it together, but he struggled the first half of the year.
And that may be a reason why, let's say going into game number one, maybe Thompson is your long-term plan, but maybe somebody like Tree starts at left tackle in that first game because, again, he's got more experience, roughly half a season under his belt already. Maybe kind of go with the safer bet there. Again, if you're beating them well enough or just mixing and matching on offense, you get Thompson out there, get him some drives, get him kind of feeling him out in a real game situation to maybe where you think going into week number 2, you're confident enough, okay, he's got it. Let's put him in there to start against Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. If you trust 8, like Shane said, I think one is Tree because of the tackle situation.
Right.
So maybe Tree gets more run in week 2 against Old Dominion. Maybe they split snaps. Who knows? But Josiah Thompson, I think before it's all said and done, I believe will get the most snaps of any freshman on the team.
Right.
If he stays healthy, obviously. So I think Matthew Fuller's going to get some snaps.
Sounds like. Now here's the thing. Because we talk about this every year. There's always that one guy in camp that gets talked about a lot that we never really hear a lot from when the season starts. I love hearing what we've heard about Matthew Fuller, but that is a very busy running back room.
Yeah.
Is he maybe the guy that just from a number standpoint doesn't, and not say he won't be out there on the field, but doesn't get quite as much a run as some of these other guys?
I think it's a very deep running back room, but I think Shane Beamer has repeatedly brought up Matthew Fuller. He just said the thing about the freshman running back. So as a freshman running back, it's going to play. The interesting thing is DJ Braswell to me.
Sure.
We've heard a couple good things about him at camp.
Kind of the forgotten man.
Yeah, he is. I mean, was forced to burn his red shirt last year. And look, didn't have a lot of none of the running backs. I mean, Mario Anderson broke off a few really long runs, but there wasn't a whole lot of consistent production from your running backs, and part of that was your offensive line really wasn't very good. Braswell, we've heard some positivity about during the spring and here in the summer, but it feels like he's the forgotten guy in the room, doesn't it?
A little bit.
It does, because we've heard a lot of Matthew Fuller. We've heard a little bit of DJ Braswell, and we've obviously heard about the other 3 guys a ton. All right. Firehouse Sub text the hour 803-404-6100. That's coming up next as we do football in the 1 o'clock hour on the halftime show, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the Game. Oh, time for the Firehouse Subtext of the hour here on the Halftime Show. Football, and more football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. What do you got there, Tyler?
Justin weighs in and says, Sanders won the Heisman on my dynasty in NCAA. I'm expecting the same in real life from him this season. It's a high bar to set, but
There's a high bar.
we'll take it. Don't know if we're going to get that necessarily.
Let's hope.
That'd be cool.
Let's hope it works, Justin.
Running backs winning the Heisman is something that's not as prevalent
It's
today
so
as it once was.
1997.
You'll occasionally get a Mark Ingram or a Derrick Henry that comes along, but usually it's quarterback.
Yeah, it's typically a quarterback award now. Basically, it's become the best quarterback on the best team.
Yeah,
usually,
pretty much.
Anymore. I mean, every now and then somebody will break through that if they're like unbelievable. But usually, like for an example, I mean, you think about it when Robert Griffin III won the award, Baylor wasn't a double-digit win team.
No.
And I believe the year Tebow won it, I don't think Florida won 10 games either.
No, that was the year they went to that was between national championships.
Yes, which is ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, I know,
That's the
it's
year
funny.
he wins the Heisman. Now, A&M did win 10 games with Johnny Football.
Yeah. But I mean, like, his moment was made in Tuscaloosa.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, he had it locked up at that point in time.
So these rare occasions you'll have a quarterback who just had such a polarizing season, he wins the award on a team that isn't in the top 5 or 6.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Jaden Daniels, last year.
They won 10 games.
They did win 10 games, but they weren't in the mix for the
But his
playoff
numbers,
at the end of the season. But his numbers were hard to ignore.
Yeah, they were so filthy.
And that's the thing, to be outside of like the playoff bubble, you because like even Caleb Williams was on a team that played for the Pac-12 championship 2 years ago. Like you have to have just ungodly numbers where you just can't be denied, basically.
And then this is the thing, and this is an award for the best player in college football.
Yes.
Not the best player on the team with the best win-loss record.
Yes.
It's the best player in college football. And last year, Jaden Daniels was the best player in college football.
No doubt.
That in the stat counting department, right?
Sure.
So to me, when people bring up one-loss record, I'm like, that's not the criteria of the award.
Right.
The award is the best player in college football.
I think the thought behind that is, well, if you're the best player, your team should be good.
But not in the ultimate team game.
Not
because
usually.
How many snaps did Jaden Daniels take on defense last year?
He might have actually been a decent safety, for being honest.
It couldn't have been any worse than what they had running around last year.
Right.
That's the thing. You want to penalize, really, what makes him even more worthy of the award is if you want to go down this road, and I think, again, one-loss record for quarterbacks is the second most asinine stat in sports behind the quality start in baseball, in my opinion. But if someone wants to go down that road, okay, they had one of the worst defenses in America last year.
Sure.
Won 10 games. Why?
Because of the offense.
Who led the offense?
That'd be Jaden Daniels.
Can I go home now?
Yeah. Yeah, that had the making of, if you had just an average quarterback, that's probably like a 4 or 5.
I was going to go 6-win team tops.
Yeah.
Tops.
Sure.
So anyone wants to throw that one-loss record or they didn't get in the college football playoff or play for the SEC title, I'll go, how about the fact that they had a defense that you didn't even need 3 downs to get a first down. You could have had 2 downs and still gone down the field and scored 40 on those guys. They were terrible.
He drug a half-dead team to a 10-win season.
Yeah. That shows you how good he was. And again, he had 2 first-round picks at wide receiver. I get it. But that guy was a trigger man for an offense that basically carried a lifeless defense to a 10-win season.
Right.
So I hope Justin, I hope you're correct and Rocket Sanders follows his dynasty Heisman with the real Heisman.
I do have to ask, what difficulty settings were you playing on? Because that's very important here. It's easy to run for a lot of yards when you're on freshman mode. Heisman mode, a little different.
Don't ruin this moment for Rocket Sanders. You're ruining this moment for Rocket Sanders.
I want to know the context. I just wanted, as somebody that plays on All-American, I just want to know.
Did Rocket Sanders win the award?
He did win the award.
You're trying to cheapen the award.
Now, if he won that award with 3,500 yards and 40 touchdowns, I'm going to think he maybe was on freshman mode, which is okay. As long as you're enjoying the game, that's cool.
Hey, man won the award. You can't take it away from him.
Very true. I've won a few Heisman trophies in my day on the sticks.
I bet you have. Hey, really quick, and thank you for the text. We always appreciate it. All right, ESPN came out with their little college football playoff spiel, the playoff predictor. Real quick, though, I thought it was interesting. Here are the top 12 teams just by percentage of being able to make the college football playoff. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, obviously, Georgia. Number 2, Oregon. The computers love Oregon and love Texas. Texas at 3. Ohio State's at 4.
Yep.
Notre Dame 5. Tied with Penn State, by the way. So that's 6.
Yep.
Alabama 7. Missouri and Tennessee and Oklahoma tied for 8th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the last 2, Florida State and Michigan.
You know what really surprises me?
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss is only at 21%.
I know. Tied with A&M and Kansas State. Clemson's at 27%, LSU at 25%. But the 12 are Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Bama, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida State, Michigan. Obviously, when we get kicked out for Group of 5.
Right.
And if you're a conference champion, blah, blah, blah. But just the top 12 by the computer, they're your 12.
Right.
Kind of interesting. All right, that's football. The 1 o'clock hour is sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. What's trending at 2 is next on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford and Tyler Head as we roll What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Obviously, we've been talking a lot of Shane Beamer, a lot of South Carolina Gamecocks coming out of scrimmage number 2 of the summer camp. Let's get one more in here real quick, Tyler. As Shane talks about a variety of topics. Let's get to Cut 21. Talking about the versatility that this team has on offense. And here's Shane discussing that again, Cut 21.
I feel good. Are we where we need to be? No. Do we have a first-round draft pick out there and an NFL quarterback like we did last year with Spencer and Zay? No, but we're going to be good enough. I think those receivers continue to get better. I mean, you think about it, 2 of the top receivers that we're counting on this year, Nick Harbor and Dale Von Campbell and Vandravius Jacobs, and none of those 3 were even here during spring practice. So this is literally their 14th practice as a Gamecock in 2024, or Gamecock ever if you're the 2 transfers, and we're counting on those guys. So they're continuing to get more and more comfortable with our quarterbacks. They continue to flash and make plays. They've had some really good moments in practice this week, those 3 in particular, but all of our guys, Gage, Peyton Mangrum caught a ball today and had a long touchdown run after catching a pass. I mean, he's a guy that we have a lot of confidence and faith in. So we'll be fine at receiver, and then you add the tight end element to it as well that can help us in the passing game. So I feel good. Don't feel great, but you never feel great. It's always a work in progress.
Yeah, I believe that we're going to see the tight ends be a pretty big part of the passing game. Not to say tight ends are going to be leading receivers on this team, but I think you're going to see a percentage of throws going to the tight end, maybe a little bit more than you saw last year. And look, last year having Josh Simon and also Trey Knox, I mean, that was a good tight end combo. That's no disrespect to last year's tight ends. I just think with Lenore Sellers, you get a different type of quarterback. There's no Xavier Legette on this team. I mean, the wide receivers, again, are going to be, kind of ramping themselves up, especially maybe the first month of the season. So you can see the tight ends get more targets. And everybody's raving, not just, Josh Simon, ESPN did that, their sleeper list, and Josh Simon was on the sleeper list. Michael Smith has been getting nothing but rave reviews from everyone. Shane Beamer talks about the freshman tight end all the time. Freakish physical skills. Brady Hunt 2 years ago was very productive at Ball State. So you can see these tight ends getting, a lot more run, a lot more targets. And you heard Shane bring up some of the names of the receivers. And guys who make plays, guys who are, just got to summer camp who weren't around in the spring, like a Jacobs and a Campbell, who it feels like will be part of the 6. We just kind of tried to riff the 6 guys that would be the top 2 on the depth chart for wide receivers. And we looked at transfer portal with Gage Larvadain and Jared Brown. And then you throw in, Campbell and Jacobs through the portal late. And then you would pop in there a Nick Harbor. And Mazio Bennett, the freshman, has had some good moments. That feels like the 6 right now. Could change. But it sounds like the wide receivers, it has gotten better. It's probably not where Shane wants it yet. But again, that's going to be a little bit of a work in progress as well. As these guys, learn their roles, get their footing. That's why you might see more targets going to the tight end. And also possibly do the running backs. Juju McDowell, to me, his sweet spot for this offense, to me, is getting him the football in the passing game, in the backfield, out of the backfield, rather, with mismatches on linebackers or DBs where they just can't cover McDowell. He's too quick. So how much does the passing game, go through some of the running backs as well? We'll see. It's going to be different than last year, obviously, because, again, you have no Xavier Legette. The year before, you had Juice Wells. Right now, there's no wide receiver you're looking at saying that's going to be this year's version of Legette or Wells. But then remember, Wells was unproven when he came in from James Madison, was flashing, during camps, and then you saw what he did. Legette has had a ton of ability and talent and all that forever, and it finally popped last year, especially when Juice Wells was hurting out for pretty much the whole season. So one of these guys might end up stepping up and becoming that kind of weapon. We don't know. But right now, there's a lot of question marks about who is going to be the guy. Or is it going to be just a different guy every week? I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. All right. Also, what's trending at 2 here on the halftime show on the game, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Tua Tagovailoa did an interview with Dan Le Batard that aired today. And this is not a surprise, the stuff that Tua said. If you watch Tua Tagovailoa's career, start off with Brian Flores as his head coach, then Mike McDaniel. Obviously, there was a lot of talk. Was Tua a bust when he was with Brian Flores? Remember, Tua was getting hurt a lot. And the thought was, this guy's too fragile. He's having injury issues. Oh, my gosh, he's got concussion issues. Then all of a sudden, other things. Well, he doesn't have the biggest arm in the world. Well, he can't really take off and make a lot of plays with his legs. And all of a sudden, he sounds like, why did I draft him in the first place? But then Mike McDaniel came in, and everything changed for Tua. Tagovailoa said to Dan Le Batard that he began to believe he didn't belong as a quarterback in the NFL under Brian Flores, and that Mike McDaniel had to train that out of him the past 2 seasons. Quote from Tua, to put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you that you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, but you haven't earned the right, and then you have to have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. How would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it no matter what it is, the good or the bad. You hear it more and more, and you start to believe that. I don't care who you are. You could be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person telling you things that you don't want to hear or probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start believing that about yourself. And so that's what sort of ended up happening. It's basically been, 2 years of training that out. It was 2 years of training that out of not just me, but a couple of guys as well who have been here my rookie year all the way until now. Let's go back to the part of that quote. He says, you're the president of the United States and you have a terrible person telling you things that you don't want to hear. That's Brian Flores. Remember, Brian Flores, defensive coordinator, and it came from the Patriots. And, and look, don't get me wrong, the Dolphins, Brian Flores was handed a bad football team.
Sure.
And they got better under Brian Flores.
Yep.
And sometimes a coach can take you from A to B, but can't get you from B to C.
Right.
I think that was Brian Flores. He got the Dolphins from A to B. He made them better. But to unleash Tua, who you invested a lot in, you need to get another head coach.
Yeah.
Because I think Flores got the team as far as he could get them. And Tua had struggled under Flores and struggled under that offense. Remember, it was Ryan Fitzpatrick was there too. And it just, once McDaniel came in, he realized that Tua needed a hug.
Sure.
And needed to be built back up again. And I don't know. Maybe I've gotten softer in my old age. I'm not saying hard coaching's bad, because it's not. But you know what you got to combine hard coaching with?
Support.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's okay to look. There are a lot of coaches who are, or I'll use for a better term, hard ass.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what they also do? They support you. When you do well, they hug you. They are your biggest fan.
Yeah.
And deep down inside, you know that. And the way they're coaching you is to get the best out of you, to make you the best player you can be.
Right.
And you know if you do something well, they feel as good for you as you feel for you.
Sure.
And they've got your back, and they're your biggest supporter, and all that other mumbo-jumbo.
Right.
Obviously, Tua didn't feel that way with Brian Flores. Maybe Brian Flores didn't want Tua in the first place. Maybe Brian Flores looked at Tua and said, guy's not got it.
Yeah.
This guy's killing me as a head coach.
Well, and that's what we've seen with other quarterbacks in the past, that if you get started off on the wrong foot, it can be sometimes impossible to get yourself on track. So you need that additional help from your coach or whoever and that coaching staff to help you along the way until you find your footing there. And again, Brian Flores didn't seem to want to do that with Tua. And again, Mike McDaniels, those guys, obviously McDaniels, a young head coach, came up in kind of a different era of football, knew exactly what Tua needed, and those guys have been very successful in the couple of years they've been together.
And you brought an offensive-minded, very creative head coach in McDaniel.
Yes.
And I just think, for an example, and you brought up a great point, you look around and you see quarterbacks like Geno Smith's an example of this. Geno Smith was handed nothing in New York. It was a dumpster fire. And basically, Geno Smith was looked at as one of the biggest reasons why it was a dumpster fire.
Right.
Geno Smith then bounced around, then landed in Seattle, where really he got the gig because they had nobody else. Remember, they moved Russ. They believed in Geno Smith, though. They nurtured Geno Smith. And is Geno Smith one of the best quarterbacks in the league? No.
No.
But you know what? He's all right. Because you know what? He got the right people around him who, again, they put things together to go to his strengths. They nurtured him. They supported him. And he has been a serviceable starting quarterback for Seattle.
Right.
You know who's in trouble of having this happen to them and they might not be able to bounce back? Look about an hour and 15 minutes up the road. David Canales has got a job in his hands. He's got to unravel that mess from last year.
Right.
And that was a mess. And that was also criminal. Just like it was criminal to what was going on with Tua. You draft these guys in the first round. This is what kills me. Let me see. Just me climbing up on the soapbox real quick. This is what kills me. I've had no sleep. I'm loopy.
It's all right.
You go out and you draft a quarterback in the first round. And then you do nothing to support him. Look, if I'm Justin Fields, I want to go show up in Chicago and kick everybody in the throat.
Because of what Caleb Williams has around him.
Nobody's got more around them that I can think of in my lifetime than Caleb Williams has been given this year.
Right.
3 weapons at wide receiver, 2 legit pros who are playmakers, and a third young rookie looks like he's going to be the deal.
Yep.
Offensive line is very underrated. A real offensive quarterback, a real offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. I mean, he might have somebody who paints his fingernails and toenails during change of possession. I mean, Caleb Williams has gotten everything. What did Justin Fields get?
Nothing.
Look, I don't think Justin Fields will be a high level starting quarterback unless for some reason he learns how to read the field, which he can't. But they did him no favors. No favors at all in Chicago. Look at the crew they put together around Justin Fields. And now, he might start in Pittsburgh. I mean, right now they've got a competition that's really, one guy seems like he's done or, he's finished, washed. And the other guy is a running quarterback who can't read the field.
Right.
But how much better could Justin Fields have been when he was in that development stage in Chicago if he'd had a real quarterback coach and a real offensive coordinator who knew what the hell they were doing?
Yep.
And weapons around him and an offensive line that wasn't learning on the job.
Right.
You draft one of these guys, you put an offensive line in front of them so they don't get killed, and you put weapons around them so they don't have to try to do everything. And you can help their confidence and nurture them. This ain't winning Jeopardy, dude.
No, it's not.
It's really not. So anyway, Tua was saved by Mike McDaniel. A great move and a great hire that was very unorthodox. We beat up the Dolphins a lot because they deserve it. That was a really good hire.
For sure.
And look what it's done. So nice work, Miami. All right, we'll get back in here. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Tristan's Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We'll go back. We'll hear more from Shane Beamer. Talked a ton about the offense, and we'll continue hearing more about some of the other guys on the offensive side of the ball. How about a Juju McDowell and Luke Doty conversation? We'll get that next. Halftime show, what's trending at 2, right here on the game. I do. Whenever we talk about the Nest, I just go online now and look at the showroom because it's just so cool. And we've done live shows at the Nest, and the place is, the showroom's unbelievable. Over 70 years of experience of people who can help you, whether you want to, get new appliances, whether you want to get new lighting, new fixtures. Maybe you want a nice, cool tub you can just sit in and hang and bubble for an hour. They've got folks who know what's up. You have a budget, so does everybody. You call 803-978-2025. You say, look, here's what I want to do. Here's my budget. They'll say, okay, let's set you an appointment to come in and talk to one of our experts. You go in, you talk to an expert. You tell them your dreams and your plans and your goals. They will set it up for you at the Nest. It's very simple. 803-978-2025. Set that appointment. Go in and make your home look like you've always wanted to look. The Nest, it's on Gadsden in the Vista. Halftime show, What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. And we were just looking at what's trending was Tua Tagovailoa doing an interview with Dan Le Batard, basically saying, Brian Flores just beat him down for a few years. And Mike McDaniel had to come in and pump him back up. Because he was being told that he's basically sucked. And I'm just looking at the rest of this. They're talking about, how many times Tunga Vailoa was benched, replaced in games by Ryan Fitzpatrick. Just a lot of craziness in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of uncertainty of if he was going to be the guy going forward for that team.
And there was talk of they were trying to trade for Deshaun Watson for a little bit. Who dodged one there, didn't you? So, I mean, it's craziness. But it's, again, Dan Le Batard. There's probably a podcast out there if you want to check it out after the show streamed live. And, but Tua basically saying, Brian Flores was basically telling him, you're not very good at this, and we got guys who are better, or wait your turn, or we got a veteran guy in Fitzmagic,
and that's the thing we talked about in the last segment. There's nothing wrong with, hard coaching. There's nothing wrong with telling players what they're doing wrong, but there also has to be the construction part of it. That's why it's called constructive criticism. Like, okay, here's what you're doing wrong. Here's what you need to do better. Let's work on this. Let's work on that. Let's improve in this area. Let's improve in that area. Just dogging someone the entire time, it's not gonna make him better.
No, I don't really think that's a real confidence builder after a bit.
Not usually.
Call me crazy. All right, Shane Beamer, of course, talking after the second scrimmage on Saturday with the media, had a conversation about two guys we don't talk about that much: Juju McDowell, Luke Doty. I think Juju McDowell is a guy, again, when getting the ball to him in space, I think he can help you. That means, maybe 6, 7, 8 touches a game, but they're the right type of touches. Giving him the ball and saying, go between the tackles, bub, is not the way to use Juju McDowell, obviously.
Sure.
Give him the ball in space. In the passing game, set up some mismatches with some linebackers, some bigger safeties, and let McDowell beat him with quickness. Give him the ball in open areas.
Right.
Luke Doty, you and I were talking about this during the break. Luke Doty, what we saw last year at wide receiver was just threw him the ball and he caught it. Now, what is that going to translate to this year? I don't know. We threw our 6 wide receivers out. The top 2 lines of the depth chart, we didn't have Luke Doty. We don't know what Luke Doty's going to be. We got zero clue. He's working really exclusively at wide receiver. And what is he? I mean, he's the emergency quarterback now. So here's Shane talking about Juju McDowell and Luke Doty, kind of like two forgotten guys.
Good question. Those are two guys that I feel like we are better when they are on the field because of the kind of players and people they are. And I think in regards to how we use Juju and Luke will be very, game plan specific in a lot of ways. I wouldn't say that Juju's just a whatever type running back that's going to get 10 plays a game. I mean, I see him as more than that, and he's had a really good preseason. Luke is a leader of our offense and leader of our football team and works really, really hard. So both those guys are, going to help us on special teams. Juju may end up being our punt returner. There's a little sneak preview on the depth chart for you fellas as well. So he's going to be in the mix as a punt returner, and obviously, he had the great long kickoff return against East Carolina in 2021, so he can help us in the return game. He can help us at running back. Luke is going to be able to help us on special teams and help us at receiver as well. So, I wouldn't say it's a clear vision of here's exactly what we're doing with these guys each week. And I say that meaning I feel like we can do whatever we need to with them as well. There's nothing that you say, okay, well, those guys can't necessarily do that. They can do a lot that those other, running backs and receivers can as well.
So, I mean, you heard both with with Luke Doty and Juju McDowell, you heard a lot of special teams talk.
Sure.
About, Luke helping on special teams, Juju McDowell being in the punt returner mix. But then, Shane said also, we can use them, Juju at running back and Doty at wide receiver, and they can help us. I just really believe you will see those guys on the field getting snaps. I just don't think you're going to see those guys getting, tons of run. But I think they're going to be in the mix on Saturdays in some way, shape, or form at wide receiver or running back. Just maybe there'll be games like, Luke Doty might get 7 snaps at wide receiver. Maybe there's a game he gets 25.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when you think about those respective rooms, you're not expecting these guys to be big contributors. If they can go out there and give you something, that's fantastic, and you'll take it.
Add a bonus.
The success of the running back room is not going to hinge on what Juju McDowell does. The success of the wide receiver room is not going to hinge on the success of Luke Doty. And again, if they can go out there and give you something positive, that's fantastic. But you're not living and dying by what they're doing necessarily.
And you shouldn't. I mean, look, not to be mean, but you shouldn't. I think Juju McDowell has a specialized skill set. Luke Doty is an upper-level athlete.
Sure.
Now, has that kind of turned into wow success for either one of them so far? No.
Yeah.
Juju's been injured a bit, to be fair, but I think they fit certain molds of certain roles, but I think you can't ask them to do more than what their roles would be. That makes sense.
And I think from a fan perspective, these are guys that you cheer for, right? Because they've been around for a long time. Both these guys have been on South Carolina rosters for years and years and years. They haven't transferred anywhere. They've gone through coaching changes, the whole 9 yards. You want to see these guys be successful. And I think that's where that connection that people have with them, which is why people say, hey, I love it when Luke Doty's out there at wide receiver. I love to see him being successful and all that kind of stuff, because you have that connection because these guys have been loyal to your program for so long. You want to see them go out there and succeed. I just don't know to what degree they're going to factor into this offense.
And that's the thing. It's like, we always talk about this. You get, as a fan, more connected to players who are around for years and years and years.
Right.
That's why this transfer portal, one and doneer kind of world we live in college football and basketball drives some old school fans crazy, because, again, when a guy's around 3, 4, or 5 years, you get that bond with them. You just do.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, a guy like Luke Doty is really special to this fan base. No matter what his numbers and stats are. Could have left, he stayed. DeCarrion Joyner could have left, he stayed. Juju McDowell probably could have left, he stayed.
Right.
And I think, especially in this world of transfer portal, I'm not starting, I'm leaving, these guys have stayed, and I think there's a part of the fan base that warms the heart.
Yep.
But also, you have to look at them objectively and what they can bring to you on a football field. I think they both fit certain roles, but I don't think you would look at them to be major players on an explosive offense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, real quick, we were talking about Jaden Daniels a little while ago. He is now officially named the starting quarterback of the Washington Commanders. That name. To the surprise of no one, by the way.
It certainly seemed to be trending in that direction. He's had a good preseason so far, and we'll see how it translates when the lights are really on.
Again, I mean, their wide receiver room is underrated. Offensive line, we'll see how that shakes out. Probably be running for your life a bit there. But that goes back to my original point of, you draft a guy like this, you got to put support around him.
Yeah.
And look, I'm hoping what Washington's going to do with Daniels is they're going to say, look, we're starting you. We know there's going to be some growing pains. You're going to have some really good days, some really bad days, but you're our guy. Let's go get him. And no matter what happens, we're going to dust you off and put you out there in the next game and do the same thing.
Yeah, well, you just hope the injuries don't catch up to him like that did the last time they drafted a Heisman Trophy-winning quarterback in Washington. And we all know how that went.
Yeah. He just got fired at ESPN, by the way.
He did, yes.
Which was interesting. All right. Today is August 20th, right?
That is
19th.
No, 19th. That's correct.
It's the greatest day in the history of the world. Sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. That's next here on the Halftime Show on The Game. Time for the greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK here on the halftime show. Some interesting stuff on the old greatest day. 2016, Usain Bolt won 3 gold medals in his 3rd consecutive Olympics. At Rio in 2016, 4x100 relay, he won. Also, the 100 and the 200. Pretty good. He was kind of fast.
Yeah.
He was kind of fast. 2004, Michael Phelps at the Athens Olympics wraps up the 200-400 individual medley double, beating his teammate Ryan Lochte. Remember our boy Ryan Lochte?
I remember more for the stuff he did outside the pool than inside.
That's a shame because the guy was a good swimmer, right? But all I remember is he's a goof.
Knucklehead.
Yeah, massive goof.
Look, you don't have to be the smartest person in the world to be a good swimmer.
That's right.
He proved that.
Well, sometimes you're doing that flip at the wall.
Yeah.
A little head injury every now and then, maybe.
Bonk yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Ryan Lochte. Wow. 2001. Who won his 4th Formula One championship?
Oh, goodness. 2001. Man. You might have me on this one.
Schumacher.
Duh.
Michael Schumacher. He was really good for a while.
I mean
really good.
Kind of the best.
I mean, historically good.
Yeah.
Was Michael Schumacher. On this day in 1995, Mike Tyson started his comeback, knocking out Peter McNeely in 89 seconds. Knocked him down twice in the first round. McNeely's manager jumped into the ring to stop the fight. You still get paid if you get knocked out in 89 seconds.
Sure.
That'd be me.
Not as entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take the fight, knock me unconscious, and I'll get paid.
There you go.
I'm good. Like Jerry Cooney had that happen, and Cooney was looked at as a high-level heavyweight, got knocked out in the first round. Was it Larry Holmes? And he was like a punchline. People always like a lot of Jerry Cooney jokes, and I was just like, dude made millions.
I was going to say.
But check cashed.
He lived.
Check cashed. He wasn't drinking steak through a straw. Okay. Let's see. Also, greatest day in the history of the world. 1981, a dude named Ronaldo Nehemiah set the world record in the 110-meter hurdles. Ronaldo Nehemiah tried to play football in the NFL for the San Francisco 49ers in the Bill Walsh era and just couldn't translate that speed into football. There are track guys who have tried it. I mean, Bob Hayes was very successful back in the 60s with the Cowboys, 60s and 70s. But sometimes it's difficult to translate world-class speed into playing football.
Right.
Ronaldo Nehemiah tried it and it just didn't work. 1921, I guess this happened. I wasn't around. Detroit's Ty Cobb gets his 3,000th hit at age 34. That was the youngest player to reach 3,000 hits at that time. And then he went in the stands and slapped a lot of people and got arrested.
What a day.
He was a Hall of Fame player, not a Hall of Fame human being.
I think that applies to a lot of people.
Yeah. That's what when people will talk about some of these Hall of Famers and you'll hear this, wasn't a great, he's not a great guy. I didn't vote for him, so he did this or that. So let's talk about the stuff Ty Cobb did. This guy's looked at as one of the greatest players in the history of the game, and he was a miserable human being.
Yeah.
Like you talk about Juan Marichal got in a fight. Not a fight, but there was a beanball thing with a guy named Johnny Rhodesboro who was a catcher for the Dodgers. And Marichal chased him around with a bat on the field, and that was held against Marichal for a long time. I'm like, okay, they got a little thing he chased the dude with a bat. How about some of the stuff those guys from the 30s and 40s did to people? And now you got to get this one. 1909. Who won the first race held at Indianapolis?
Oh, God, the first Indy 500. Man.
Come on, 1909. Come on, man.
I know. I remember watching it.
Guess how many people were there?
Certainly not 300,000.
12,000.
12,000.
A little bit less than the 300,000.
A little bit less. That was when the track was all brick.
Uh-huh.
A little bumpy.
Yeah, a little bit. Austrian guy. Schwarzenegger. Now, Louis Switzer, an Austrian engineer, won the 5-mile race average speed.
Like 20 miles an hour.
57 miles an hour.
And the pole speed now is like 239.
I know. Those dudes can go in reverse faster than 57 miles an hour.
Pretty much.
There's your greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Let's hop off the Love Chevy phone line, 803-446-200. Let's get Lee in here. Lee, thanks for your patience and holding on. You're on the halftime show. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm blessed and highly favored. How y'all doing today?
Doing great, man. Good hearing from you, pal. What's up?
A couple things. With Luke Doty coming back and Juju McDowell coming back, that ought to help their, especially if they announced the year before that they're coming back for another year. I see how that would help with their NIL deals because, you really don't want to give an NIL deal like you did Juice Wells and him not even show up to play. When you got those type of guys, that type of character, it seems like they would sell more jerseys. They could actually get more NIL deals if they decide to stay in Columbia than decide to transfer somewhere else. That's just my opinion.
That's an interesting angle on the NIL. And you hit something on the head, Lee. It's like you want to, again, these NIL deals, you're going to have things that work out really well and things that don't. Obviously, you don't want the repeat of what you saw with Juice Wells. You just don't want that again. Right. That's NIL money that you just kind of flushed, right?
Yeah. One other thing, and I know you're an NFL guy and you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. I'm a Steelers fan.
Lee, I just lost your call. Lee, I just lost your call. Go ahead, Lee. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Last year, the Steelers went undefeated in the preseason. This year, we can't buy a touchdown. So, how much weight do you put into preseason football as compared to the regular season?
None.
I'll take it off there.
None. Thanks, Lee. We appreciate it. None. I really don't put anything anymore in preseason. I just don't. I mean, look, teams are vanilla on offense or vanilla on defense. They don't play most of their starters anymore. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're trying to figure out the bottom of your roster.
Well, I'll use an example. Last night, the 49ers and Saints played on Fox, nationally televised preseason game. Brock Purdy looked terrible. Josh Dobbs looked like he should win the MVP this year. Mm-hmm. Guess who's going to be the starter in week number 1?
Oh, absolutely.
And Brock Purdy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just the way this thing works. We used to call him Mr. August.
Yeah.
And that's who some of these guys are, Mr. August. And it's not a criticism. It's the way this goes because, again, teams aren't putting out their starters. They're not playing complex schemes and systems offensively or defensively. Well, it's basically just to figure out your roster. And if you have a couple of position battles, that's where it gets real. But
and for the starters, it's about knocking the rust off. And if you know that your job's not in jeopardy, I'm not saying you're not going out there and trying, but the consequences are not the same as when you're actually playing a real game during the regular season where wins and losses actually matter. You know what I mean? So, again, you take it with a grain of salt. And sure, if you got a rookie that goes out there and completely balls out in the preseason, okay, guy to watch when the season finally rolls around, especially if he's, a mid-round pick or something along those lines. But I take everything with a grain of salt. And the perfect example, the 2008 Lions were 4-0 in the preseason.
How did they do in the regular season?
They didn't. They went 0-16.
Yeah,
Our
exactly.
guy Langston Moore can attest to that. So
yes,
there's how much stock you should put in the preseason.
Well, I'll say this too: the Ravens, because Lee brought up the Ravens being a Steelers fan. The Ravens had this stupid streak of winning preseason games consecutively in a row here in the last. They lost their opener this year.
Yep.
But they were on this stupid streak of winning preseason games. Guess how many Super Bowls they got to during that streak?
None.
Yeah, they made the playoffs, but they only made one AFC championship game that whole time.
Sure.
There's no correlation. Zero correlation to what you do in the preseason compared to the regular season. And it's less now than ever.
Yes.
It just is. Lee, thanks for the call, though, my man. We appreciate you. All right, we'll get back in here. Time for our final Firehouse subtext of the hour at 803-404-6100. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, till 3 on The Game. Then Jay and Elijah from Columbia Craft, the postgame show, coming up next here on The Game.
he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Point!
Hey, you okay? You don't normally miss those shots.
Oh, I just haven't been as regular lately, and it's making me feel sluggish.
You should try Metamucil. It's been a game changer for me. Metamucil's plant-based psyllium fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down.
Ace!
You're moving better than you were last week.
Definitely.
Metamucil keeps you moving. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Learn more at metamucil.com.
Progressive presents 10 things on a plumber's to-do list that are harder than getting a small business insurance quote. Waking up for 5 a.m. plumbing disasters, finding out why water is pouring from the ceiling, replacing a pipe in a home from the 1800s, then dealing with invoices or your awkward apprentice or that really weird smell, and then there's breathing and eating, and of course, clogs. But the easiest thing on any small business owner's to-do list? Seeing if you could save on the business insurance that's right for you. Get a quote in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Point!
Hey, you okay? You don't normally miss those shots.
Oh, I just haven't been as regular lately, and it's making me feel sluggish.
You should try Metamucil. It's been a game changer for me. Metamucil's plant-based psyllium fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down.
Ace!
You're moving better than you were last week.
Definitely.
Metamucil keeps you moving. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Learn more at metamucil.com.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
It's time for Text of the Hour on the Firehouse Subs text line on the Halftime Show.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
All right, our final Firehouse subtext of the hour for today. What do you got there at 803-404-6100?
Yeah, in regards to the quarterback competition, Amos Texter keeps it simple. Whoever starts, if they don't move the ball, expect to change.
Yes. And the reason, look, we talked about it earlier in the show, because, again, Shane has done a great job keeping Old Dominion guessing.
Yep.
And keeping everybody guessing and keeping the competition alive to keep his young quarterback engaged and all those other things that are going on. But, again, 99% of me says you're going to see Lenore Sellers running out there against Old Dominion.
Yeah. And if the offense doesn't do anything while he's out there, well, then you can reassess things and go from there. But we're assuming things should be flowing with him. And if it gets to a point where nothing's happening, then you make a change.
Yeah, I just feel like, too, and that's one thing. The deal with Lenore Sellers is, I mean, he didn't play. You got a little taste of Sellers last year.
Sure.
And you saw a couple of spectacular moments with him at quarterback. And so, again, you as a fan, you should be excited of the potential of Lenore Sellers. Absolutely. But you also have to understand that he's never started a game in the SEC.
Right.
He's never started a game, period. And there could be a learning curve. There could be a growth curve. Now, he could come out here and just crush it right from the get-go. But he also might need a little time to get himself together.
Right.
But, I mean, it was good for him to sit and learn from Spencer Rattler and watch and listen and all that. And the little bit you saw of him was, you're a fan going, wow. How about when this guy takes over next year? There are going to be big plays everywhere.
Right.
And could that happen? Yeah, but there might be a learning curve. You got to keep that in mind. Appreciate the text. Thank you very much. 803-404-6100. We didn't get to this, so let's sneak it in real quick. Ohio State has 4 players on the AP preseason All-America team, first team. Are we surprised?
Not at all.
No. Caleb Downs transferred from Bama. The safety, guard Donovan Jackson, corner Denzel Burke, and wide receiver Emeka Ibuke.
Yes.
They are the 4. Running back Travion Henderson, defensive lineman Talik Williams made second team. Buckeyes had 6 total selections. Number 1, Georgia. Number 9, Michigan had 3 players apiece. Quarterback Carson Beck. With Georgia, also guard Tate Radledge and defensive back Malachi Starks were the Georgia Bulldogs. Bama, 2 transfers on the first team. Parker Brailsford, the center from UW, who came along with Kalen DeBoer, and their kicker, Graham Nicholson. How about Alabama? Ready? When's the last time Alabama had 2 guys on the All-American team? One was the kicker.
Did Riker make a... he probably did.
Yeah, there's probably more than 2 All-Americans on that team.
Maybe.
Probably. But, it's Alabama's funny. They've either had... Remember when they went through that stretch where they had awful kickers?
Oh, yeah. No, they couldn't find a good kicker to save their lives.
And they were so good everywhere.
I know. It's funny.
And their kickers were terrible. Number 7, Notre Dame. Number 13, LSU also had 2 first-team selections as well. Oregon, 3 players on the second team, including their starting quarterback, Dylan Gabriel. 6th year for Dylan Gabriel. 3rd team that Gabriel's been on. Really, Oklahoma made a choice.
Yeah, they invested in the future with
Jackson
Arnold, because if Gabriel stays for another year, guess what? He's gone.
Arnold. Now, I will say this. I understand that in theory to a point. So you really must think Jackson Arnold's going to be the real deal.
Better hope so.
Because if he's not, you gave away a heck of a quarterback.
Oh, for sure.
Coming off a 10-win season, by the way, your squad. Oh, yeah, you're going into the SEC. Hope you get that right with Jackson Arnold.
Well, and, Arnold's bowl game wasn't the greatest, so you're probably looking at that saying, ooh, I hope we made the right choice.
It's like, no, that was not the best. Not at all. But Dylan Gabriel will be the second-team All-American quarterback. So that's kind of, we didn't get really a chance to dive into that, but yes, that's the All-America team that just came out earlier today. 6 Buckeyes, first and second team combined. They're loaded, man.
This is if there was ever going to be a year for them, this is the year. And if they don't at least make it to the national championship game, it's going to be viewed as a severe disappointment.
I feel like on paper, which we don't play the game, obviously, the 2 best teams in the country on paper, and I don't think it's close as Georgia and Ohio State.
Sure.
And then you drop down a notch. Not to say that next notch somebody can't come out of there and win a championship or play for a championship, but I just feel clearly it's Georgia and Ohio State on paper.
Definitely.
And Ryan Day, A, don't lose to Michigan.
Right.
B, I'm being kind. You got to at least get to the semis. I feel like you're built to get to the championship game, and if you're not in the championship game, that would be a disappointment.
Yeah.
You can't go one and done in the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely not.
You got to advance. So 6 All-Americans, you're All-Americans from Ohio State. Tyler, nice job, my friend. We appreciate your good work.
Yep.
Coming up next, the post-game show with Jay and Elijah. They are hanging live at Columbia Craft. I think Elijah's already tried 8 craft beers in the last 15 minutes since he's been there. We'll do this again tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with us here on The Game.
107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Take up to $20,000 off new Silverados.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
Hilton Garden Inn, downtown Columbia, and Gamecock football go hand in hand for the ultimate fan experience. Located in the heart of the city, their prime location offers easy access to all the action on game day. With home dates available for exciting matchups against Old Dominion, LSU, Ole Miss, Wofford, Missouri, and Texas A&M, there's no better place to stay for Gamecock football season. Book your room now by calling 803-227-3400 and let them take care of the rest. Enjoy comfort, convenience, and hospitality at Hilton Garden Inn, Columbia, downtown.
Firehouse Subs, hook and ladder jingle, take 1.
Hook and ladder,
when it's hot, it just tastes better. Warm that smoky turkey, that thin sliced honey.
Guys, this is a 30-second ad. You gotta sing faster.